All views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not meant to offend or hurt the sentiments of, including but not limited to, any person living or dead, religion or ethnic group, community or country. The primary purpose of this podcast is to build a cultural bridge and shed a light on the similarities we share with our friends from across the border.
Couple we have on our show is the lovely Fatima and Jaideep from Bombay. Fathima's from Karachi. I remember my first memory of Fatima is when we went on a dive trip 7 years ago to the Maldives. And believe it or not, there were a bunch of Desis and Fatima from Karachi. And we had one crazy night, which is a Bollywood night. But no prizes for guessing who took away the floor on that Bollywood night. Obviously, it was Fatima with her matkas and jhatkas to every single Bollywood song. So much so that they were so aggressive that the entire boat rocked to the extent that she fell down on our good friend Ghassi and broke his ankle. So to all our listeners, that's an introduction to Fatima and Jaideep. And welcome to the episode, guys. So glad that you could join us on this podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Very happy to be here.
So guys, tell us about yourselves. How did you guys meet?
So I'll start maybe. Yeah, so, so we talked about the dive trip and I've been going diving pretty regularly since I've moved to Singapore about 10 years ago with a crew that's grown over time. So there were, I think, 10, 12 people, and now there are 25 people. And they organize a dive trip every year. And when you go on these dive trips, you basically live on a boat with this crew for 10 days, right? And you spend a lot of time with them. So I made some really deep friendships with a lot of the people on the trip who were from India. And I realized it was really easy because we look the same. We sort of talk the same. We get the lingo. You can break into like a little bit of Urdu, Hindi, English mix, So it was just easy. And then over time, I had some of my dive buddies visiting me in Singapore and they stayed with me for the weekend. And one of them went to school with Jaideep. So he was reaching out to his school friends or people he knew in Jaideep. And that's where I met him for the first time. And then we sort of, we spent the weekend with friends and everybody went their own separate way. And believe it or not, the next time I saw Jaideep was maybe I think 20 days later.
That's not true.
20 days?
No, because I remember I met you, but then I didn't take your phone number because, I was just trying to play the game. I was not trying to be,
I know, but then I met
Who's
you.
South Bombay guy?
No, I met you 4 days later at a bar at an India-Pakistan
So 4 days, not 20 days.
Yeah.
So 4 days later, when I thought, the weekend's over, Jaideep's gone. I'm sitting watching the India-Pakistan cricket match at Boat Key, which is a bar in Singapore. No answers for guessing who won that match. Besti to hamari hoti hai na, hamesha public mein. But Jaideep walks in with a friend. And of course, there were 300. The ratio to Indians to Pakistanis was 300 to 3. And there was only one, me, when there's a wicket or a cricket, whatever. Jaideep was very nonchalant and uninterested. But I saw him from across and I said hi and then we caught up. And that was that. So that's how we... that's the night he took my number. Before that, I think he was trying to play cool over the weekend.
So Pakistan lost that match, right? I'm just guessing. I have no idea which match it is. I'm just guessing.
So basically, man, it was it's the worst thing being a cricket fan and playing with. I hate it. But the good thing, I think the reason why I think this marriage will survive is because Jaideep is not a cricket fan, which blew my mind. Because thoda gora nikla na, America jaake thoda usne basketball वगैरह देख लिए, football.
No, I never I just cannot spend 8 hours watching a match. I have ADD.
I can. Yeah.
And the only reason we actually met is because another friend of mine was visiting Singapore that weekend, and he's obsessed with cricket. So actually, if he wasn't in town, we wouldn't have actually met. I probably wouldn't have gotten a phone number. So I showed up at this bar. I didn't want to be there. I could care less.
Yeah.
And then I see this crazy woman kind of waving her hand, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's turned out for the better, right? So if you were a big cricket freak, you'd just be gloating so hard that, you'd be
I'd probably go home.
He's so full of himself.
All my game from the weekend before would have gone out the window. Right?
Yeah, true.
So Fatima, you mentioned obviously that you've had a lot of Indian friends and probably still do have a lot of Indian friends, etc.
Yep.
But somewhere down the road, there must have been that one moment when you guys knew that this is it for you guys and it's forever and always for you guys, and that's when you were certain that you're going to tie the knot and end up with this guy for the rest of your life. And you have Indian friends, that's one thing, but now you have an Indian partner for life. That's another thing altogether, right? Any preconceived notions, any reservations you had? Were you nervous about something when you made this decision?
Yeah, it is, and especially when you're older, right? We both got married post 35. I think the older you are, the less nobody's looking for drama, right? It's not like you're looking to make things easier and not complicated. And I don't think I've ever thought of ending that. I ever thought I'd end up with an Indian. To be honest, right? It's hard. It's the cultures are so different. And while I am not a religious person, Jaideep is not a religious person. I just think the religions are poles apart, right? So the families come from a different set. And while our families are very liberal, at the end of the day, just like how to get married, how to live, names, it is very, very different. So you don't go into thinking, oh my God, I'm going to start dating this guy and it's going to culminate in a marriage. And we didn't. But I think things moved there. And then we really had that conversation to, okay, what is this going to entail? What does this mean, right? And I was just telling Jaideep, I was like, oh my God, I was like, I want to get rid of my Pakistani passport by probably like getting married to a Swiss guy. That's where I want to go. And I was like, Jaideep, this is going to be horrible. Like with my Pakistani passport, your Indian passport, life is going to be a bed of roses. Like we're just going to have a ball, right? And we're never going to be able to travel. So we did have that conversation. I think
the conversations that we had were more, so there was definitely a logistical element, right? So the fact is when you have an Indian and Pakistani passport, like if one day you get married and you have kids, like, what passport do they have, right? Can you even go to each other's countries to meet your family, or if there's an emergency? Those were the kinds of questions that are quite real, right? It was less about you're Pakistani and I'm Indian. And then the other one was not so much religion, but I think like to some degree religion, right? Like I think we were both very open thinkers. And I think that's one of the reasons that it works, right? Like I think if we were kind of staunchly religious, it would have been harder. And not for the reasons that most people think. But it's like, we're both foodies, right? I've been with someone, I've dated someone who was a vegetarian before. I promised myself I will never do that again because like eating is such a huge part of my life, right? Going to a restaurant and really experiencing the food is where some of my best memories are, right? So I think those are also the kinds of elements that we talked about, but those were very easily addressed, I think.
It was more the compatibility, right? Like you go out, you eat, you drink, you connect, you sort of connect on a lot of the similar things in life. I felt like it was a very similar base that we were coming from. But you're right. I think if I were religious, you can be religious and tolerant, but it's hard then to sort of marry someone who you're going to raise children with, who has another sort of set of ideology, faith-based approach, because then there's going to be a clash. I think the reason why it's easy for us is we call ourselves secular humanists, and we both want to be, I think at the end of the day, our goal is to be good human beings and to raise good human beings, right? I think that's where and we rationalize things. So both of us can, if there's a problem, we can rationally talk about it without being very sort of taking emotional positions that are based on things that you can't rationalize. So I think that works. And the fact I think that you're a little bit older really, really helps, right? Because you're just independent. Yeah.
Interesting. Rationalized it between the two of you, but do you still come into contact with people? I don't know. I mean, Singapore is a very multicultural sort of city, right? But do you still come into contact with people that might have slightly differing views? So, Jaideep, like in your case, she'll be like, "Huh? Pakistani se shaadi? Magar kyun?" Matlab, not like in a hate way, but in like a perplexed sort of way. Really?
I have to say, not so much. That's what I mean. I don't know.
Maybe Sameer, when you first told him.
Yeah, I have a really, really close friend. That's a good point. I have a really, really close friend who, by the way, he's Indian, but born and raised in the US. And he is married to Aga Khani and faced, a lot of issues. Well, his family is also extremely religious. Like his dad is basically the head of the local temple, right? So staunchly religious Hindus. And then she comes from an Aga Khani family. And they really, really clashed. And their families just had nothing in common. So I think when I told him, his first response was, don't do it. It's like, learn from my mistakes, don't do it. But actually, I think my friends in Bombay, a lot of them are actually her friends because through her diving crew, like through her friend circle that we met through, we just have so many common friends. So we haven't had as many of those reactions from Bombay. I know you had some reactions from some of your friends.
Yeah, I did. I did. Yeah.
You got to tell us some or just nod your head?
Yeah, no, I will. I think I have a few friends who did say to me, I think religion plays maybe a slightly bigger part in our lives. And I think there's always this, I have very close friends who are thinking about me or saying, okay, but if you're going to get married to somebody of a different faith, right now you're just chilling, but maybe at 45 or 55 or 60, they weren't saying I'll be you'll find God again, but you might want to, people change over time, and spirituality and faith sort of really help people get through life. And what are you going to do? You might feel like you're stuck. And I said to them that, I would never marry somebody who stopped me from finding my peace, my faith, my religion, now whatever it is, right? Like if 20 years from now I want to go and pray, and if Jaideep tells me, oh my God, you're praying, what kind of a person are you to pray? Or if Jaideep wants to go for I just think as long as we find whatever we can in our own lives, and we're not imposing or thopoing, that you should come with me, or maybe you should stop eating, or you should stop drinking, it works. So I think they were a little concerned that in your old age, when you're with somebody else from a different faith, are you going to be able to find your way back in if you want to? And I kind of told them that in my mind, I've never really left, in the sense that I feel like I'm a really good person and I'm not a bad person. And I don't know that in 20 years, I'm going to go from bad to good, right? Like I don't view religion that way. So there were concerns. They were concerned about me. And I think the ones that are a little bit more religious were concerned about like the differences. So I really had to sit them down and be like, I think it's about my happiness, and I'm happiest maybe with him, and I don't think so the criteria is slightly different and all of that.
But there has been, I think on both our sides, there's always, while no one's been blatantly unaccepting, there are people who have been more accepting than not. And I will say that as we've grown as a couple, our relationships have strengthened with the people around us who have been supportive. And there have been a few friends who've kind of fallen through the cracks, right? Like we're not as close to them.
Yeah, maybe.
So I also find that, with friends, it might be slightly easier to cross that hurdle because they're still our generation. And you guys mentioned that you guys have lived abroad for years. And when you live outside the city and, the confines of everything that, India or Pakistan in that context throws at you in terms of the media and everything that you're reading, perpetually always bombarded with someone else's point of view. When you guys have been away, it's very easy to kind of break out of that mentality and that stereotype in that regard. And also because our generation is well exposed, travel, lived all over the world, etc. Becomes relatively easier to swallow that pill as well. What about your folks? What about your families? How did they react? Did they react in the same way? Were they as open-minded? Did they have reservations? Did they have a point of view?
You go first.
I will say, so I think my sister and my dad are, no major concerns. I think there was some concern from particularly my mom. It wasn't as strong, but I think our initial reaction was concern around the fact that I would convert, right? And that was a real problem for her. And it took and yeah, that's the other thing, right? So my parents, we come from a Sindhi family. So, my grandparents are actually born in modern day Pakistan. My mom was born in Hyderabad, Sindh, right? And moved to India when she was 6 months ago and grew up to stories of, she was 6 months old, but as she grew up, the stories that she heard were around kind of that great migration and the crimes that happened to people. Of course, very one-sided, right? All the crimes happened to the Hindus. But she grew up on these stories, and she grew up in a household where it's very weird because she had three really, really close friends ever since she was 5 or 6 years old. 2 of them are Muslim, right? But she grew up in this household, and she has this very contradictory view because the people she's relied on the most have actually been from Muslim families in Bombay. But then there's, stories of how they were not allowed to come over or how she was not allowed to go spend the night in their houses. So she's grown up in this environment, and I think that's jaded her in a way. So she was very concerned about, me converting and me changing as a person because I would be with Fatma.
I think the other thing is, the perception of Muslims in Bombay. I think there's a small, I won't call it a ghetto, but there's how different communities live in sort of, they congregate and they consolidate around, right?
Of course.
What is that road called? Muhammad Ali Road?
Muhammad Ali Road,
Mahim, Bandra.
Crawford Market.
So they think that, the Muslims are coming out from Matam, or the Muslims are taking out those morchas. And I think at first glance, her mother's impression was, who's this Fatma? And if she's from Pakistan. I think the exposure, right? To your point, everything that you've talked about, what is the media showing us? Who are these Pakistanis? How are they? Half the time when I see Homeland, I'm like, oh my God, this is not what you call a ghar, makan.
Exactly.
It's like Arabic words, right? So I think half the time when you see Pakistani, you think like somebody's going to come in a burqa-clad situation, say like either hands up or like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to touch, or don't drink beer in my house, or whatever it is. So I do think his mother probably thought, who's this girl and what is what is the I think the perception of Muslims and the exposure of people in India to Pakistan, I think they all think Pakistan's like a black hole where people sort of like
filled with terrorists, right?
Like they're like Iraq or Syria or all of that.
Yeah, because people don't know any better, unfortunately, right? That's why they're not able to shape public opinion, because they don't know any better. But on that subject, did either of you guys have a religious point of view on converting? Did anyone convert? Have you all still maintained your religious status? You have.
Which is not religious, right? I think one thing that probably is a pet peeve for both of us is people pushing their views onto anyone, right? We don't do that to anyone. We definitely don't like it when people do that to us, and we've kind of preserved that aspect. And so we haven't, we're not, I wouldn't say we're religious in any form.
It's just that it's not as important at all. For me, there are other things, there are 4 or 5 things that are really more important. But when it comes to the two of us, religion was not an issue for us.
So going back to the earlier conversation about my mom, it's quite strange. It started off quite rocky, right? So she was like, I don't know if you should pursue this. I don't know if it makes sense. And I think there was a few stages where things unfolded and she became quite okay with the idea. The first is she came to Singapore and spent a few weeks and met Fatima quite often. And it was weird, but because after the first week, she said something weird like, actually, Fatima's not so bad, right? And look at how many things we have in common. And I was like, when did this realization hit you that we, speak the same language, eat the same food, look the same way, dress the same way? Like, it was shocking to her how much we had in common. And it was shocking to me that this was a revelation to her, right? But I think when she came and she spent time and, finally figured out that Fatima is actually a human being and not a Pakistani who in her mind is a terrorist or, and actually is a nice person and quite similar to us, she started to ease up a little bit. But then I think it still took a few more months.
Yeah, I think the exposure, the lack of, I think is the biggest. I feel like if people were allowed to have an exchange of any kind, right? Because we have all these literature festivals, whether they're in Jaipur and Lahore, or, we talk about like the Karachi is the commercial capital. But if people had some sort of insight into or interaction or platform to engage, they just would be, there's so many preconceived notions that probably would not sort of, that we built through, like you said, media and politics and politicians and the rest of it.
Yeah. It's a very, very weird example I'll give you. My mom eats these weird mints that I think you only get in Bombay, these thick, peppermints.
Yeah.
Factory grade. And Fatima's friend was visiting town.
Are those the black and white ones? The black and white round ones?
They're just white. Like white round ones.
They actually come from Karnataka. They're not from Bombay.
Yeah, possibly. But I've grown up on them. And Fatima's friend was visiting town. She's like, oh my God, I love those. Right?
Because the entire family's from Bombay.
Her family's from Bombay. So grew up on the same mints, right? And it just took my mom by such surprise. Like, she's Pakistani. How does she like these mints, right? That's the level of like commonality, right? Which you will never find actually with anyone from any other country, right? We just have such a similar background, similar taste profiles, similar likes, similar dislikes. And I think spending time with people on the other side helps really show that in a way that you wouldn't imagine.
I'll just say, if Jaideep and I have to admit, it's also a function of how old we are and independent we are in our lives, right? We live by, I've been living on my own for 9 years. My mother comes, visits me. I love my mom. She knows I'm an adult. He's been living on his own. I do think if we were 25 and living with our parents, it would have been a much more difficult discussion. And we'll stop talking. Yeah.
No. I'm actually stuck on those mints. Do they come in like unmarked plastic bags?
You know
Are they? Yeah, they're called Jawarji Tikki in Sindhi. It's like a very desi. I mean, it's not easy to find them, but they are absolutely like mind-blowingly mental. और मतलब कोई उसमें कोई marking नहीं होती, कोई ठप्पा type लगा होता है, थोड़ी सी engraving होती है. Oh my God, that stuff
वो
is
strong
crazy.
होती हैं, बहुत
strong होती है.
बहुत strong है.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
when
my
I was
God.
9 years old, I actually visited the peppermint factory where they get made.
Oh, that's awesome.
that's how I knew they come from Karnataka. Because I've been there.
There's a Sindhi connection with this mint situation, okay?
Probably,
I
that
think
could
all
be it.
Sindhi households eat mint.
Maybe we just value the fact that we need to have fresh breath at all points of time.
No, that is industrial grade stuff, man. Nobody needs that fresh breath. इतनी भी नहीं चाहिए. वो तो quick
Or maybe
वाला
it's to mask the fact that we're always drinking whiskey, right? When we were in school.
Exactly.
That's
When
not
we
that big.
used to have
It's not a big problem here. So
Yeah, of course. But you know, in here, it's like I went to school. I went to Jaideep to Bombay International School to BIS, and we used to have a what was it called, medical day once a year, right? Where they come and they do your height, weight, they do a blood test, etc. And the joke always was with the Sindhis, you know, what's your blood? They never asked you what's your blood type. They asked you what's your Scotch type.
Yeah, Sindhi uncles
so much
drinking
that
whiskey
it's-
and it's mostly black label too, right? They all drink black label.
Black label. Yeah, that's the typical Sindhi one. But on the subject of whiskey, right, let's talk about the wedding. Because, of course, for Indians and Pakistanis, the wedding is a very big deal. And there's a lot of dhoom-dham, a lot of shoshan. Obviously, you can't do the wedding in Karachi or Bombay because how do the families travel to each part of the, the other part of the world? And obviously, you want to celebrate it in a fashion that you're familiar with, that your family is familiar with. You want to maximize the fun from the festivities. Was that an issue at all? How did you guys kind of maximize the fun by respecting each other's cultures?
It's a very interesting question. So I think we did run into one issue at the wedding. So we came up with this great grand plan of saying, we're so secular. Wouldn't it be great if we can do kind of both the ceremonies, right? Do a Hindu ceremony followed by a Muslim ceremony. That did not fly with either side, right? Both of the parents just immediately shut that down. And essentially their thought was, there's no need to do that. Because actually, when you do one, the other one becomes defunct. It defies the purpose in its very core. So rather than almost make a mockery out of those two traditions, don't do anything, right? Yeah. So there was a very, very strong stance on that. So we didn't have any religious ceremony at our weddings. At our wedding.
Yeah, we both we both thought it'd be really nice to have Indian pera and then followed by Pakistani dua or whatever nikah. But I think for us it's maybe more cultural and it's a way of getting in tradition and culture and understanding of lives. For what his parents and my mom, and we sat down and we'd have older family members from each side coming. For them it is. It's not culture and tradition, right? It's a way of life. And you can't suddenly have peras and then be like, oh, I'm just going to go and be like this person that's now having a Muslim ceremony, right? They think it's sort of disrespectful and that it would hurt other people's feelings because we were probably not taking it in the essence that they would take it in. So we said, okay, we don't want to get into that and spoil anyone's mood or have the wedding sort of overrun, with religious sentiment where people are unhappy or guests, my parents or his parents have to sort of manage their extended family to where people are upset. So it was we went to Istanbul. It's easiest. It's a destination wedding. Everybody gets a visa. It's a direct flight. And then we just planned 3.5 days of fun around. There was a mehndi or what they call Sangeet, right?
Yeah.
We had a boat party and then there was a wedding ceremony. Yeah. Well, I wish it was. But it was a boat party and then we had a wedding ceremony, right? At a really nice old sort of castle and where we had speeches and people talked and we danced. And, I'll be honest, I think the alcohol was flowing every day, man. We weren't hiding it.
No.
And my mother was okay with it. I'm okay with it. I do think there are could have been people in my extended family that might not have approved it. But my mother said to me, it's your wedding. It's your day. If I'm okay with it, that's all you need to worry about. So I love my mom, dude. I was like, thank God for my mom. Because there are parents who say कि नहीं लोग क्या कहेंगे मैं क्या कहूँगी लोगों को भी नाक कट जाएगी मैं वापस मुझे घर जाना है. So and you then worry about it, right? Like my mother still lives in Karachi. You don't want her to go back home feeling like, oh my God, मेरी तो बेटी हाथ से निकल गई है, or I don't know what's going on in my kids' lives and I don't want her to have that sentiment. But when she said to me, you do what you want, I am okay. If I am okay with it, don't worry about the rest. So we were like, okay, let's go. It was a great 3 days. And I think everybody got along so
it was
well.
a real coming together. A lot of our friends, like the Pakistanis and Indians, actually now I look at anyone's Facebook page, they have all these common friends, right? Like it's literally like they all became friends, which was something really
We kept in touch.
which was something really nice to see.
Yeah.
There was one or two exceptions of stupid behavior, but
That sounds interesting.
there was this one friend of mine, his wife essentially made a comment to someone that says, let's take the next bus because there's all these Pakis on this bus, which when I heard about it, I almost flipped out.
Oh, no, we have to discourage stuff.
So there's
like
always that one bad apple, right? Like in any group, like statistically, you're always going to find one idiot.
Yeah.
So we did find that idiot.
I
But
found it really funny. Also,
I was about to
I think the Pakis were
blow a lid
the
on that person.
Pakis were really like loud and obnoxious at the wedding and singing loudly
Which is great.
and playing Antakshari in buses. So I don't know if everybody appreciated them, but yeah, that was probably the only comment we heard that we thought was.
Well, they're just having fun, yeah. That's their version of fun. Why should anyone be inhibited from having fun? Yeah, especially at a wedding. You're there to have fun at a wedding.
Yeah, like what? I mean, honestly, I was looking at like all these like idiotic like South Bombay guys, and I'm like, we dance, dude. Like they're like, oh, I don't dance to Hindi music, so
Meanwhile, the Karachi walas were killing it.
Yeah, completely.
Oh, represent.
100%. I was on their side.
But I think I agree with you. I think it came together better than we thought.
Oh, amazing.
And I think when people meet each other, right, I think what we saw was people getting together over music, food, common friends. I don't think when you celebrate, nobody thought of like, what part of the world are you from? What's your religion? There was so much love and enjoyment, and I think people just didn't care. It was great to see. Yeah. And I think that you could just literally, I think that was a microcosm of a little bit. If we talk about now, you guys and how you met through a platform, right? I mean, we should absolutely be able to engage people. I think people see similarities more and, engage and are open more than we think they will be. I think it's more the governments really that might
try and restrict
not be the best.
Yeah, no, absolutely. On the subject of the government, I'm sure both of you guys must have had a hard time trying to cross into each other's borders. Which one was harder? Let's hear the stories.
Come on. There's no question here. India was harder.
You're both pointing at each other.
No, on my border.
Oh, yeah. Our border. Okay. Why? What's the story there?
The visa form is like, it's like signing up for an asylum somewhere. It's like Pakistanis have to fill out 4 extra forms of like 16 extra pages, and God, it goes down to my great-grandmother and my father. Every time I fill out that form, it's an online form. It invariably hangs out. It has like 62 pages.
Frankly, even the experiences at our respective embassies. Like
64, actually.
64.
Since you said 16 into 4.
And the bloody computer hangs up in the middle or doesn't go forward, you will lose all the data. It's literally like it's given me an aneurysm where like while I was doing that, it's like a real, this weekend is dedicated to filling out the visa application, And then poor Jaideep's parents have sent me letters saying, we really want our daughter-in-law to come home. We want to see her, all of that. He has a home in Bombay. I really thought that after I get married to somebody who's from India, and, I've been to India so many times on a tourist visa before or work visa, that it'd be easier because there's a home there and you get a police reporting visa. And God knows I've done police reporting, the 20 times I've been to India before. So it's not new to me. So I know where the CID office is. I know where Crawford Market is. I've been many times. But it's like a 9-month, 15-month process where they're like, Bibi, 5 agencies hain, theek hai, 5 agencies. Jab 5 ki 5 aapko clearance dengi na, tab aapka visa aayega. I was like, dude, and every time you apply, there's like 5 agencies that have to get. So then you wait, and it's.
But they're also quite rude. Like at the embassy, there's the guy with like the.
We have to be a little careful because I have to go to the embassy again.
Yeah.
So we won't say who, but I will say that Jaideep came to the Pakistani embassy. He was like, "Sir, I बैठे chai piyenge."
Look, they were very honest. They were like, "Look, you're not getting your visa." It was a little arts and crafts project that we did because we had to create 11 copies and so we were literally with 11 photographs, organizing, did all this. We're like, so what do you think our chances are? Dekhiye, sir, it's probably not going to happen. But you want a cup of tea? I was like, yeah, why not? So they're very, very sweet, but also realistic and saying, look, your chances are 0.
But I don't know what it was, how he did get the visa finally. He made it to Karachi. in December of 2018. And I don't know who, I think we asked 100, like his company people, my friends, people we thought we know people, basically I WhatsApp an application number to everybody and anybody and their uncles and fathers and grandfathers. So I think that sometimes helps. And the fact that my mother lives in Karachi. So we said, but he got a non-police reporting visa.
Whoa.
To which I was shocked.
Yeah.
And every time I go to India, I'm like reporting to the police before and after, right? And I'm like, I've never gotten a non-police reporting visa. But I don't know. So that was our...
Yeah, and this goes back to the earlier conversation around my biggest concern getting into this relationship and this marriage was the logistic aspect, right? So you have to know someone to get a visa. It's not possible if you don't know and you just apply, you're not going to get a visa. So it's really painful and really tedious, right? Yeah. Somehow, so far, we've managed to make it work. Yeah. But it's not easy.
And I think the challenge is always going to be if I have an emergency and I have to go back to Karachi or if Jaideep has an emergency, has to go back to Bombay. We just have to do it on our own. Probably not going to be, go together and get it fixed. I think both of us have pretty much come to terms to that fact.
Jaideep, it's killing me. I have to ask though, how was the chai?
Very good. Super good.
Oh, biscuit bhi the.
Biscuit bhi the, right. Yeah.
No, it works, man.
Yeah.
So
the experience was top class. Also, there was no one there. Like, the entire thing was empty. So we were chilling on the couch, having a cup of tea. It was like a nice afternoon out. We left knowing that it was not going to work out, and somehow magically, we actually got it 3 days before our flight.
Yeah, something came through.
So Jaideep, how was Karachi? Was it up to your expectations? I mean, or did you think, when was this?
Everything,
when did you guys visit?
2017. Right?
No, 18. 2017 December.
Yeah, 2017 December. Everything was above expectations except for the lack of alcohol.
Above expectations? That means you had a preconceived notion that it would suck?
No,
dun, dun, dun.
I didn't. I didn't know what to expect, but I had a great time.
The food would be good, but I think
I was blown away by the food. I was blown away by the food.
And the chai?
I just ate oh my God. I still have photographs of I used to wake up every morning to anda parathas and kebabs. I used to eat kebabs for breakfast. Oh, so good.
Yeah, I think Karachi was fun though.
Yeah. I think what surprised me was how welcoming people were. Right? Because I've traveled to many countries and usually the reaction is, oh, you're a tourist here, welcome. Here it's like, let me roll out the red carpet for you. Like, you're from India, you're our guest. And we want to go above and beyond to make sure that this experience is going to be great for you. Like, a friend was like, oh, you're here because of you. Like, let's take the boat out, right? And then they organized this whole thing. There was something going on every night, some party organized because I was in town. It was crazy. And that completely was surprising for me. I didn't expect that.
That's nice. I had very similar experiences in Lahore as well with the food, with the hospitality. I wasn't allowed to carry my own bags. Policemen would come and carry my bags because I was like a guest of the country. So policemen would come and carry our bags when we got off at the station, and when we were boarding the bus to get onward with our journey. Fats, your turn. How was
about India?
Yeah,
dude, I love Bombay. I have to say, Bombay is such a it's like maximum city, right? If there's a place that and it's like a 5-hour flight. Like for Karachi, we have to go by Sri Lanka or Thailand. Going home is 10 hours. Bombay is 4.5 hours direct flight. You're there. If I could travel, I would visit so much more. I have friends there. I know all the chaat places, the pani puri places, the dosa places, the guju thali places, shopping, eating. When I go to Bombay, I feel like I'm home. It's no different for me. I love it.
Except for the alcohol.
In Bombay?
That's the big difference, right? It's home with alcohol.
It's like home with alcohol, yeah. For Jaideep, it's Karachi, we had a bootlegger, right? And December's always tough with bootleggers because they're all busy.
$120 for a Smirnoff. That was the worst experience in Karachi.
So guys, you guys have been married for a few years now. I'm sure you guys are thinking about next steps as far as where this, this marriage goes. At some point of time in your lives, I hope that you will be parents. And when you will be parents, of course, the common question that a lot of Indian Pakistani couples ask is, how do you bring up your children? Have you guys discussed this? Has it been a point of contention? Is there consensus? Is there thought around it?
I think there has been thought around it, right? I think that's because I think bringing up children is a sort of like a subset of how you want to live your life overall. And children are very much part of that, right? And I think the thing with Jaideep and I that we both sort of agree to is we're not overly tied to morality or values driven by religion. We are tied to, of course, raising good human beings, but also we're being very open to each other's religions and cultures, right? So whether it's celebrating Eid or understanding Eid or Diwali or Ramzan or Janmashtami or other things, right? I think you open it up without sort of overwhelming or confusing the kids, right? And bringing in like deep ideological discussions of like Shiva or like, Kaaba in the first 5 years. But I think you open it up. And I also think in this day and age, and when they're older, they can choose if they choose to be a certain way.
Exactly. I think the two things that we plan to do, one is to keep the traditions, right? Because they're celebrate Diwali, celebrate Eid, let them experience those things because they're also dear to us.
Yeah.
And then the second is to educate them, right? We're going to educate them on how we think, but then we're going to also educate them on some of the more, I think they should understand, the concepts behind Islam, but also Hinduism, right?
Sure.
And when they're adults, they can choose, right? They can choose the direction they want to go, just like we made choices on the directions that we want to go. But it's about education and celebration, I think.
I think there's not enough, there's not enough competition between us, right? We're not competitive about Mera Bacha. My lakhte jigar is going to follow it has to be my religion. It has to be we're very open to that. But where there's competition, as I've told him already, there's going to be, the kids cannot support the Indian cricket team. It is not going to happen.
One day they're going to get tired of losing.
That is over my head, Bobby.
Make that decision for themselves.
So I was like, you can put the whatever American football jerseys on, but I've made, there's going to be a coup in the house with the Pakistan cricket team. And and everybody tells me, they'll grow up as disappointed sports fans. And I was like, the struggle is real. You got to do it.
No, better days will come, Fatma. Don't worry.
I love the optimism, guys. I love the optimism. What happens when there's an India-Pakistan match? How do you guys manage? I know, Jaideep, you said you're not a big cricket fan, but still India-Pakistan playing cricket
he supports India. Of course
the
he
biggest
supports
spectacle.
Support India.
Of course he supports
But
India.
it'll hurt feelings a lot more if Pakistan loses than it would if India loses. The reality, though, is that India doesn't lose. So I can't really speak to the experience, but yeah.
No, but the funniest was, I think, the last World Cup, right? So I am really, 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 during matches, I am not a very calm person. And I'm just feeling a lot of things. And, mere muh se, as my mother would say,
Hurt, pain,
no, and my
disappointment.
My sort of language signifies that. और मेरे मुंह से बहुत ही उम्दा ज़बान उस वक्त इस्तेमाल होती है. So the funny thing was his parents were visiting. We live together now. It was the first time that they were coming to stay at our house, and they came a day before the Pakistan-India cricket match. तो बाकी सारे मैचेस में तो मैं काफी खुल्लम खुल्ला और मैं इंडियन क्रिकेटर्स को भी बड़ा कुछ कह रही हूँ, टीम को भी कह रही हूँ, जयदीप को भी कह रही हूँ कि आउट हो गया और फिर गालियां वालियां भी दे रही हूँ. इसके अम्मा अब्बा आए में इंडिया पाकिस्तान का मैच हो रहा है. लिटरली I was biting my tongue and sitting on my hands कि मेरे मुंह से कोई और आउट किया तो अंदर से मेरे दिल में जो है वो लड्डू फूट रहे हैं. I'm just like, and then I'm like, it was
colonial hangover, Fatima.
That to me was the most uncomfortable
Wait, who won that match?
I don't care. I forgot.
If it was the World Cup match, we won it. If it was the 2019 World Cup match, we won it because there's a really
guys,
funny...
Suvir, we get it.
There's a really funny viral video on this which I shared with you, Umair, about this guy, this Pakistani guy, remember, who lost the plot?
Yeah,
you saw that, right?
Of course, yeah.
After all the dropped catches.
Yeah.
यार जिल्लत जो है ना वो इतनी बेइज्जती हुई थी और उस दिन तो खैर I think that was the most tense माहौल for me. Forget religion, forget partition, forget borders. When the India-Pakistan matches happen, the competition is next level, and I'm just like, these 3 Indians in my house, I can't lose in front of them. At that point in time, you don't think that they're family. That's probably the most competitive I've been. It's when the cricket is on. And that's where I'm going to fully co-opt if they're ever kids.
Yes.
Into I don't know how, because there's no Wasim Akram, there's no Imran Khan. I feel like I really need heroes, in the Pakistan cricket team. So you have to work on that game.
Good luck.
Yeah. Fatma himmat na haro. Hoga.
नहीं यार
hoga.
मैंने तो नहीं जाने नहीं देना ये मैंने.
You obviously transfer your disappointment on others, like you rightly said, by you also transferring that pain and hurt onto others as well.
Yeah.
That's right. No, I do.
Teach your kids to be winners.
They will have character. They will character development. Eventually, they will win, overcome. Also, I say na Pakistan cricket team better looking and better at cricket. थोड़े वैसे हमारे वो पिछले टाइम से थोड़े better looking इतने नहीं रहे हैं.
Yeah, I was like, when we watched the match more closely, I'm like, wait, who are you talking about in this squad?
जब मैं historically squad देखती हूँ तो मैं कहती हूँ better looking और better at cricket तो हमारी ही team थी. तो मतलब that's my
Wonderful.
When the cricket World Cup starts, that's what I start with, and then I'm like every day. Anyway.
No, it's nice. Sweet, do you have anything else?
Yeah, guys, last question before we sign off. Any advice, any last words to any budding Veer Zara couples that we have out there?
It's actually less about Veer Zara and more about any couple, and that the only advice I have is like make decisions for yourself. Like no one knows you better than you know yourself. And you have to think about what you're looking for in a life partner, what your preferences are, what things are kind of things you really want and what things are non-negotiables, and make decisions based on that. Don't get influenced by anyone or anything, including media and family, because frankly, they don't know the person that you're trying to be with as well as you know that person, for instance, right?
It's very difficult.
It's very difficult, but you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't do that.
I'd say the barriers to entry into a Pakistan-India relationship are high because of everything else around you, right? Like there's the border pay tension, there is politicians not speaking to each other, there's the cricket, I think based on all of that, people are just scared to venture in, but I will say to people, between families, between individuals, there are more similarities than differences. And you can put those differences aside, It's not rocket science. It's not that hard. At an individual level, it's pretty easy.
Totally.
All right. Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of our conversation. Thank you, Jaideep. Thank you, Fatima. It was lovely having you guys with us on the podcast.
Thanks for having us, guys. That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you.
Pakistan team for the win. Woohoo! I got their last word. Yeah.
21-55.
Ouch! Damn.